accusations, broken trust, and the ghost of a partnership that had once been the department's most effective. Jordan's face, usually a mask of stoic command, was etched with a profound weariness. She looked from one to the other, the files on her desk a testament to the mess they were in. "I'm not going to mince words," Jordan began, her voice low and gravelly. "The fallout from the Pikeman leak is a Category 5 hurricane for this department. Internal affairs is crawling all over this place, the mayor is breathing down my neck, and the public's trust is hanging by a thread. And the two of you are at the epicenter of it." Sam's jaw tightened. She crossed her arms, a defensive gesture she immediately regretted, forcing them back to her sides. "With all due respect, Commissioner, I was acting on credible intelligence. Intelligence that suggested a deep-rooted conspiracy involving Pikeman and a high-ranking member of this department." Dante let out a short, humorless laugh. "Credible intelligence? You mean the anonymous tips and encrypted messages you've been chasing, Sam? You bypassed protocol, you went behind my back, you leaked sensitive operational details to a source you refused to name, and you got 2 good officers put on administrative leave. For what? A hunch? It's not a hunch." Sam's voice rose, her eyes flashing with a fire that had been banked for weeks. "The evidence is there if you just open your eyes. But you won't, because you're so determined to believe the system is clean." "Well, it's not, Dante. It's rotten, and someone inside is pulling the strings. The only one pulling strings right now is you, orchestrating this witch hunt." Dante shot back, stepping forward. "You've been different ever since you started working with him." He didn't need to say the name. Jason Morgan's presence hung in the room as palpably as if he were standing there. Sam's alliance with her ex-husband, the man who operated in the city's dark underbelly, was the unspoken fracture line in her partnership with Dante. "This has nothing to do with Jason," Sam said, her voice dangerously quiet. "This is about doing the job you seem too scared to do." "Enough." Jordan's fist came down on the desk, the sharp crack silencing them both. "I don't care about your personal grievances. I care about the integrity of my police force. Detective Falconeri, your frustration is noted, but your insubordination in the field is also being reviewed. And Detective McCall, your methods have crossed a line. Until further notice, you are both suspended. Turn in your badges and your weapons." The words landed like physical blows. Sam stared, stunned. Dante simply nodded, his face a grim mask of acceptance. He unclipped his badge from his belt and placed his service weapon on the desk with a heavy finality. Sam hesitated for a moment longer, a storm of protest in her eyes, before slowly doing the same. The cold, empty space on her hip where her gun usually rested felt like a condemnation. Without another word, Dante turned and walked out of the office. Sam followed a moment later, her steps heavy. The bullpen outside had fallen silent, every officer pretending not to watch the department's golden team implode. As the heavy doors of the PCPD swung shut behind them, Sam called out, "Dante, wait!" He stopped but didn't turn around, his shoulders rigid. "What, Sam? What could you possibly have to say?" "We're on the same side," she said, her voice pleading slightly. "You have to know that." Finally, he turned, his eyes full of a disappointment that cut deeper than any anger. "Are we? Because from where I'm standing, you've chosen a side. And it's not the one with the badge." He looked at her for a long moment, then shook his head. "Stay away from me, Sam. And for God's sake, stay away from Jason Morgan before he gets you killed." He walked away, leaving her standing alone on the steps of the PCPD, the gray November sky mirroring the desolation inside her. Across town, in the muted, opulent quiet of the Metro Court Hotel's executive office, the atmosphere was equally tense, though the weapons were words and the battlefield was a multi-million-dollar corporation. Carly Spencer, her posture as unyielding as iron, faced her son, Michael Corinthos, and his wife, Willow. "It's not up for discussion, Michael," Carly said, her voice leaving no room for negotiation. "Selling my shares of the Metro Court to Drew is the only move that makes sense right now." Michael ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. "Mom, it doesn't make sense. It's a panic move. Drew is leveraging your guilt over what happened with Nina to pressure you into this. He's not thinking rationally, and you're following him right off a cliff. Willow placed a calming hand on Michael's arm. Carly, we understand you feel responsible. What Nina did, the SEC tip, the fallout, it was devastating. But surrendering your legacy here, the business you built from the ground up, it won't fix what's broken between you and Drew. This isn't about fixing things with Drew, Carly insisted, though the flicker in her eyes betrayed her. This is about simplifying. Protecting what's left. Drew has a vision for this company that I can't be a part of anymore. Our partnership is over. The trust is gone. And what about our partnership? Michael asked, his voice soft but sharp. You, me, Bobby? This hotel is a family enterprise. If you sell to Drew, you're handing control of our family's biggest asset to a man who is currently obsessed with destroying Nina Reeves and who is clearly furious with you. This isn't simplification, it's self-immolation. The door to the office opened and Drew Kane himself entered, his expression grim and determined. He carried a leather-bound portfolio, the contents of which everyone in the room knew would seal the deal. Drew, Michael said, the single word a warning. Michael. Willow, Drew nodded, his gaze settling on Carly. The papers are ready for your review, Carly. My lawyers have gone over them, everything is in order. Carly took a deep breath, steeling herself. Thank you, Drew. Mom, don't do this, Michael pleaded one last time. Think about what you're losing. Think about Sunny. The mention of Sunny's name caused Carly to flinch almost imperceptibly. Her complicated history with her ex-husband was another layer in this intricate web of loyalty and betrayal. This has nothing to do with Sunny, she said, her voice trembling slightly. She walked to the desk, picked up a pen, and without allowing herself another moment of hesitation, she signed her name on the dotted line. The scratch of the pen was deafening in the quiet room. She handed the document to Drew. Their fingers brushed for a second, a fleeting contact that spoke volumes of a friendship shattered, a business alliance dissolved, and a deep, personal hurt that neither knew how to navigate. It's done, Carly whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. Drew took the papers, his jaw tight. I'll have my people transfer the funds by the end of the day. He looked at Michael and Willow. I intend to honor the legacy of this hotel. This is a business decision, not a personal one. Everything with you is personal right now, Drew, Michael retorted. And this feels a lot like punishment. Drew didn't deny it. He simply gave a curt nod and left the office, leaving the Corinthos family to pick up the pieces of Carly's decision. Carly stood rooted to the spot, staring at the empty doorway, the weight of her choice settling on her shoulders like a physical burden. She had just sold a part of her soul, and she wasn't sure she'd ever get it back. At the same time, in the dim, intimate lighting of the Savoy, Sunny Corinthos was engaged in a different kind of negotiation, one where the stakes were measured in territory and blood. Seated across from him was Cyrus Renaud, a man whose brand of evil was so calm, so sanctimonious, it was somehow more terrifying than the hot-headed rage of his rivals. I must say, Sunny, your new blend is robust, Cyrus said, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. A little too much fire for my palate, but the market seems to enjoy it. Sunny's smile was a tight, dangerous thing. We aim to please, Cyrus. But I don't think you asked for this meeting to discuss the tasting notes of my coffee imports. Cyrus's smile was equally reptilian. Perceptive as always. No, I'm here to discuss the future. Your recent distractions with Pikeman and the internal power struggles have created a vacuum. Nature and the criminal underworld abhor a vacuum. If you're looking to expand your territory, Cyrus, I'd think twice, Sunny said, his voice dropping to that low, menacing register that promised violence. My focus is exactly where it needs to be. Is it? Cyrus leaned forward, his eyes glinting. Rumors suggest your attention is divided. Between your business, your family, and the ever-complicated Ms. Reeves. A man can only be pulled in so many directions before he snaps. I'm merely here to offer a consolidation. A merger of our interests, if you will. For the sake of stability. Sunny laughed, a dry, harsh sound. A merger? You want me to get in bed with you? The man who poisoned my mother? The man who had my wife attacked? You've lost your mind. I found clarity, Cyrus corrected him smoothly. The world is changing, Sunny. Old rivalries are a luxury we can no longer afford. There are new players, bigger, more organized. Pikeman was just the tip of the spear. Aligning our forces is the only logical path to survival. I'd rather burn it all to the ground, Sunny said, his voice deathly quiet, than align myself with you. The standoff was interrupted by the arrival of Nina Reeves. She paused at the entrance to the lounge, sensing the thick tension in the air. Sunny? Is everything all right? Cyrus's smile widened. Ah, Ms. Reeves. A pleasure, as always. We were just discussing the future. Perhaps you can talk some sense into your partner. The path of isolation is a lonely and dangerous one. Nina looked from Cyrus's smug face to Sunny's thunderous expression. I think you should leave, Cyrus. Of course. Cyrus rose, finishing his drink. Think about my offer, Sunny. The clock is ticking. He gave a mock-pious nod and walked away, leaving a trail of unease in his wake. What was that about? Nina asked, coming to stand beside Sunny. Cyrus being Cyrus, Sunny muttered, his hand finding hers and squeezing it tightly. He smells blood in the water. Thinks I'm vulnerable. Are you? Nina asked, her concern genuine. Sunny looked at her, and for a brief moment, the formidable crime lord was gone, replaced by a man weary of the constant war. With you? No, he said. But the doubt, for the first time in a long time, was there, lurking in the shadows of his eyes. The mood at General Hospital was a stark contrast to the machinations at the Metro Court and the Savoy, but the emotional stakes were just as high. In a private room on the maternity ward, Elizabeth Weber adjusted the blanket around the tiny, sleeping form of baby Liam. She smiled down at him, a fragile, hopeful thing, before turning her attention to the room's other occupant, her brother, Lucas Jones. Lucas sat in the chair by the window, looking pale and drawn. His recovery from the car accident that had nearly taken his life was slow and painful, both physically and emotionally. He's perfect, Liz, Lucas said, his voice raspy. Just perfect. He is, Elizabeth agreed softly. And he's a fighter, just like his uncle. A shadow crossed Lucas's face. I don't feel much like a fighter right now. Elizabeth moved to sit beside him. You are. Every day you get through this, you're fighting. The physical therapy, the pain, it's a battle. But you're not fighting it alone. Lucas looked out the window at the gathering dusk. I know. Brad's been amazing. Through all of it. I don't deserve him. Don't you dare say that, Elizabeth chided gently. You deserve every bit of happiness, Lucas. What happened with the accident, it was a tragedy, but it wasn't your fault. You have to stop blaming yourself. It's hard, he admitted, his eyes glistening. When I close my eyes, I still see the headlights. I still feel the impact. I keep thinking about everything I've lost, everything I've put everyone through. Look at what you have, Elizabeth urged him, gesturing to the baby. You have a beautiful, healthy nephew. You have a husband who adores you. You have a family that loves you. The past is a place of reference, not residence, Lucas. You have to find a way to come back to us. As she spoke, the door opened and Brad Cooper entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He took in the scene, his husband's despondent posture, Elizabeth's encouraging expression, and his own face softened with a mixture of love and worry. I come bearing caffeine, Brad announced, forcing a cheerful tone. He handed a cup to Elizabeth and then knelt in front of Lucas. And for you, my love, a decaf latte with extra foam, just how you like it. Lucas managed a small, genuine smile. Thanks, Brad. How are you feeling? Brad asked, searching his husband's face. Tired, Lucas said. But, better. Having you both here helps. Brad took Lucas's hand. We're not going anywhere. We're in this together. All of us. He looked over at Liam, sleeping peacefully. We have a lot to look forward to. For the first time in weeks, Lucas's smile reached his eyes. It was a small spark, but in the gloom of his recovery, it was a beacon of hope. The road ahead was long, but he wasn't walking it alone. Meanwhile, in the depths of the hospital, in a secured and secluded wing, another kind of vigil was taking place. Alexis Davis sat beside the bed of her sister, Christina Corinthos Davis. Christina was sleeping, her face pale against the white pillow, the events of recent weeks having taken a severe toll on her mental and physical health. Alexis held her sister's hand, her thumb gently stroking her knuckles. The door opened and Molly Lansing Davis entered, her face etched with the same concern. Any change? Molly whispered. Alexis shook her head. She's been asleep for a few hours. The doctor said the sedative would help her get the rest she needs. Her body has been through a trauma. Molly came to stand on the other side of the bed, looking down at their older sister. It's not just her body, Mom. It's her spirit. What she went through, it broke something in her. I know, Alexis said, her voice thick with emotion. But we are going to help her put the pieces back together. We're her family. That's what we do. I just wish we'd seen it sooner, Molly said, guilt weighing heavily on her words. I wish we'd known how much she was struggling. We can't play that game, Molly, Alexis said, though she had been playing it in her own mind for days. Guilt won't help her now. What she needs is our unwavering support. Our love. Our presence. They sat in silence for a while, the only sound the steady beep of the heart monitor, a rhythmic promise that Christina was still fighting. Dad called, Molly said after a moment. He's on his way back from the conference in Geneva. He's taking the first flight he can get. Alexis nodded. Good. She needs all of us. She leaned forward, brushing a strand of hair from Christina's forehead. You hear that, sweetheart? We're all here. Your family. You're safe now. Just rest. We're not going anywhere. In her sleep, Christina's breathing seemed to deepen, as if some deep, frightened part of her had heard the promise and, for the first time in a long time, felt a semblance of peace. Back at the Metro Court, the consequences of Carly's decision were already beginning to ripple outward. In the hotel's bar, Drew Kane sat alone, the signed contract for the Metro Court shares sitting on the table in front of him like a trophy of a bitter victory. He stared at it, but he felt no triumph, only a hollow emptiness. He was so lost in his thoughts he didn't see Willow approach until she was standing by his table. Drew, she said softly. He looked up, startled. Willow. What can I do for you? May I sit? She asked. He gestured to the chair opposite him. She sat, her gaze falling to the contract before returning to his face. This is a mistake, Drew, she said, her tone not accusatory, but deeply sad. I know you're hurting. What Nina did was unforgivable. And Carly's betrayal. I can't even imagine. But this? Buying her out, forcing her out of the company she built? This isn't you. You don't know what it's like, Willow, Drew said, his voice rough. To have your life, your freedom, stolen from you. To have the woman you once loved be responsible for it. And then to have someone you considered your closest friend keep that secret. It changes you. It hardens you. I do know about betrayal, Willow countered gently. I know about family secrets and the damage they can do. But reacting from a place of pure anger only leads to more destruction. Look at what you're doing to your relationship with Michael. To your friendship with Carly. You're burning every bridge you have. Maybe those bridges needed to be burned, Drew said, but the conviction in his voice was wavering. No, Willow said firmly. They didn't. This quest for vengeance against Nina, this punishment of Carly, it's going to consume you, Drew. And when the fire burns out, you're going to look around and find yourself completely alone. Is that what you want? Drew didn't answer. He looked down at the contract again, and for the first time, he saw it not as a symbol of power, but as a monument to his own pain. Willow's words were a mirror, and he didn't like the reflection staring back at him. Think about it, Willow said, standing up. Before it's too late. She gave his shoulder a gentle squeeze and walked away, leaving him alone with his thoughts and the chilling realization that in his quest for justice, he might have become the very thing he despised. As night fell fully over Port Charles, the city's intricate tapestry of lives continued to intertwine and unravel. At the Port Charles garage, Jason Morgan was wiping his hands on a rag, the hood of a classic car raised before him, when the bell on the door chimed. He looked up to see Sam standing there, her face a portrait of defeat. Sam, he said, his tone neutral but his eyes taking in her disheveled state. What's wrong? Jordan suspended me, she said, her voice flat. Dante, too. We turned in our badges. Jason put down the rag and walked toward her. What happened? The pikeman leak. She thinks I've gone rogue. Dante thinks I've chosen you over the job. She let out a shaky breath. Maybe I have. You didn't choose me, Sam, Jason said, stopping in front of her. You chose the truth. The pikeman conspiracy is real. The corruption in the PCPD is real. They just don't want to see it. It doesn't matter what they want to see, Sam said, her frustration boiling over. I'm off the case. I'm out of the loop. I can't do anything from the outside. Yes, you can, Jason said, his voice low and intense. You can do more. Without the badge, you're not bound by their rules. You're not limited by their blindness. We can work this from the outside, Sam. Together. We can find the proof we need to expose everyone involved. Sam looked into his steady, determined eyes. It was a dangerous path he was proposing. The line between right and wrong, between justice and vengeance, was blurred. She had spent her career trying to uphold the law, and now Jason was asking her to operate outside of it. But what was the law, she thought, when the lawmakers were corrupt? What was justice when the system was designed to protect the guilty? Together, she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Jason nodded. Always. It was a promise and a pledge. In that moment, standing in the quiet of the garage, Sam McCall felt the last tether to her old life snap. She was adrift now, in the dangerous, gray waters where Jason Morgan lived. And for the first time, she wasn't sure if she was trying to save herself, or if she was willingly letting herself sink. The final scene of the day unfolded in the penthouse of the Metro Court. Sonny had poured 2 glasses of brandy, handing one to Nina. The confrontation with Cyrus had left him unsettled, and the news of Carly selling her shares to Drew had sent another shockwave through his world. It's a new world order, Nina, Sonny mused, staring into his glass. Carly is out of the Metro Court. Drew is on a warpath. Cyrus is making his move. And the PCPD is tearing itself apart from the inside. Nina came to stand beside him, leaning her head against his shoulder. It sounds terrifying. It is, Sonny admitted. But it's also an opportunity. When the board is reset, you have a chance to position your pieces differently. He looked down at her. You're one of my pieces, you know. The most important one. I'm not a piece, Sonny, Nina said softly. I'm your partner. He smiled, a real, genuine smile this time. You're right. You are. He kissed her forehead. And that's what gives me the advantage. They're all fighting their battles alone. But you and I, we're a team. He led her to the balcony, where they looked out over the glittering, dark expanse of Port Charles. The city was quiet, but the silence was deceptive. It was the calm before the storm, the collective intake of breath before the next explosion. Down below, in the streets and buildings, every player was in position. the suspended cops, the vengeful businessman, the weary crime lord, the recovering family, the broken sister, the determined mother. Their stories were threads in a single, tangled web. Sonny put his arm around Nina, pulling her close against the chill. The game was changing. The rules were being rewritten. And as the clock ticked toward midnight on Friday, November 21st, 2025, one thing was certain: when the sun rose on Port Charles, nothing would ever be the same again. The morning in Port Charles begins with a tension that almost feels like it's humming under the surface, the kind that everyone can sense but no one has the courage to name. At General Hospital, Elizabeth walks through the hallway with a chart in hand, but her thoughts are miles away. Finn notices immediately, stepping toward her with an uneasy smile. "Liz, you okay?" he asks quietly, and she pauses just long enough for him to know she isn't. She forces out a small breath and replies, "I'm trying to be." Finn doesn't push, but his eyes follow her, worried, because he's already heard whispers that what's coming today might unravel more than Elizabeth expects. A few doors down, Portia is reviewing lab results she wishes she didn't have to deliver. She holds the folder tightly, murmuring to herself, "This is going to change everything." And she knows once she hands these results over, there's no turning back. Over at Sonny's penthouse, the air is already thick with tension. Sonny is pacing, his jaw tight, his eyes sharper than they've been in weeks. Ava stands by the sofa, arms crossed, frustration bleeding through every breath. "You're not listening to me," Ava snaps, and Sonny stops mid-stride. "I am listening," he fires back, "I just don't trust what I'm hearing." Ava rolls her eyes. "Oh, please. You don't have to trust me, trust the situation. Something is happening. Someone is targeting you again, and pretending it's not happening doesn't protect anyone." Sonny moves closer, lowering his voice. "You know what protects people? Not letting fear make you stupid." Ava scoffs loudly. "Right, because stubbornness is so much better." Their argument halts when Dante knocks and enters, looking grim. "Dad, this isn't going away. There was another sighting last night." Sonny freezes, voice low as steel. "Where?" Dante answers quietly, "Near the warehouse." Same description. Same timing. Ava glares at Sonny as if to say, "I told you," and Sonny's silence confirms he finally believes danger is coming. At the Metro Court, Carly is trying to hold herself together, but her expression betrays her. She sits at a table with Jocelyn, who can see right through her mother's forced calm. "You're spiraling," Joss says, leaning forward. Carly sighs. "I'm thinking." "That's it. Just thinking." Joss' eyes narrow. "Mom, when you think, disaster usually follows." Carly lets out a soft laugh, but it dies quickly. "I just don't like not knowing what's coming next," she admits, gaze drifting toward the bar where John Cates is speaking into his phone with an expression that looks a little too knowing for Carly's liking. Joss watches her mother watch him and groans. "Oh, no. Don't tell me you're getting involved with that again." Carly shakes her head hard. "No. Absolutely not. I'm just curious." Joss deadpans, "Curiosity is how you married 5 times. Carly scoffs, but her eyes remain fixed on John. Something is pulling her toward him again, something she doesn't want but can't deny. Meanwhile, at GH, Trina steps off the elevator with a nervous energy that Portia senses instantly. "Sweetheart," Portia says softly, "we need to talk." Trina swallows because she recognizes her mother's tone, something serious is coming. Portia leads her into an empty room and closes the door. "This is about your test results," Portia begins, her voice steady but her hands trembling slightly. Trina's breath hitches. "Mom, just tell me." Portia hands her the envelope. Trina opens it slowly, reading each word as her expression shifts from confusion to shock. "This can't be right." Portia steps closer. "I triple-checked." Trina looks up with tears forming. "So everything I've been feeling, everything that's been off," Portia nods, whispering, "It wasn't stress." Trina covers her mouth, stunned, because what she's reading will alter every plan she thought she had for her future. At the Quartermain mansion, Michael is pacing the living room, while Willow tries to keep calm. You have to be patient, Willow says gently, but Michael shakes his head. Patience is what got us here. Ned is keeping something from us, something big. Just then, Brooklyn walks in, overhearing enough to respond. You're right, she says simply, surprising both Michael and Willow. There is something you need to know. Willow asks carefully, Brooke, is this about ELQ? Brooklyn shakes her head. It's about family. About what's coming next. Her expression is conflicted, almost haunted. Ned made a decision that's going to affect all of us, she whispers. Michael mutters, what else is new, but Brooklyn shakes her head again. This isn't like his usual business games. This is personal. Before she can explain further, Lois appears in the doorway, pale, breathless, and says, Brooke, honey, we need to talk. Now. Brooke stiffens, knowing exactly what her mother wants to discuss, something she isn't ready for anyone else to hear. Back in Bensonhurst, Dex is on edge as he quietly loads a duffel bag into his trunk. Jocelyn calls him, her voice tense. Why aren't you answering my texts? Dex exhales. Because I'm trying to keep you safe. Jocelyn snaps, by running off alone? That's your brilliant plan? Dex closes his eyes. Joss, listen. This thing with Sunny, it's getting worse. I can't stand by and watch you become a target. Jocelyn fires back, you don't get to make choices for me. Dex says nothing, then finally admits, I'm meeting someone. Someone who can help. Joss' voice breaks. Who? Dex hesitates. John Cates. Jocelyn nearly screams, are you insane? Dex clicks off the call before she can stop him, because he already knows she would try. At the police station, Anna is deep in thought, staring at a file that's been sitting on her desk for hours. Jordan walks in, raising a brow. That's the 4th time you've read that page. Anna answers without looking up. Because it still doesn't make sense. Jordan leans over. You think the attacks are connected to Sunny? Anna taps the file. Connected, yes. Directed at. I'm not convinced. Jordan crosses her arms. Then who? Anna quickly shuts the file. Someone who knows how to disappear. Someone who knows how to manipulate. Jordan mutters, that narrows it down to half this town. Anna shakes her head. Not like this. She pulls out another photo, grainy surveillance of a figure wearing a hood, leaving the scene of last night's break-in. This person is avoiding cameras too precisely. Almost like they know exactly where they are. Jordan frowns. So we're looking at a professional. Anna nods slowly. A very good one. Across town, Christina sits alone at Charlie's, running her hand over her stomach, trying to soothe herself. Molly arrives and sits beside her. I know you don't want to talk about it, Molly begins softly, but hiding from it doesn't make it go away. Christina exhales shakily. It's not the situation I'm scared of. It's how everyone else is going to react. Molly squeezes her sister's hand. You don't owe anyone an apology for how you feel or what you choose. Christina whispers, maybe not. But I owe it to this baby to make the right choices.